In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern where we do have a little bit of a tropical concern. We're going to be discussing that. Overall, the tropics have been quieter here as of late. After we saw a lot of activity, it's really just turned back off all of a sudden. We do still have very cold air compared to normal, that is, moving in for the rest of August, which is only a couple more days, and for the first half of September, maybe all the way up until after the 10th into the 15th is certainly possible at this point. So we're going to be discussing that cooler air as well, that the models have really began to show being more intense, and also the National Weather Service has been on board with this looking more intense as well. Outside of that, we'll go over the entire pattern for the lower 48 as far as storms as well. So let's just dive into things. We're taking a look at the tropics first things first. And if you remember, maybe a little under a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we had a lot of activity here in the Eastern Pacific. And you can see we have two areas with 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. Both are high risks for development there. Pretty reminiscent of what we saw not too long ago. And then we see the Atlantic here with a sudden area popping up. It has a 0% chance of development over the next 2 days, but a 30% chance over the next 7. So we saw the Eastern Pacific wake up, and then not too long after that, we saw the Atlantic overall begin to wake up. So I am curious to see if the same thing kind of repeats itself, or if it's going to go a little differently this time. We do, again, have this area here coming off of Africa. Pretty classic look. And this is generally expected to move a little bit northwesterly here. So depending on how much of a northern curve there is, this might just be a purely out-to-sea threat. But if it does meander on the southern end of things, I could see it being more of something to keep our eyes on for the Caribbean, Central America, and even up here in the United States. With all that being said, let's go ahead and move into some of that modeled guidance. I really need to stop saying that when we move on from the radar, because we always look at this first. Anyway, this is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the National Weather Service as of today on August 29th. And this is for the 4th through the 8th of September. So now we're pushing towards the 10th, or in other words, the first third of the month of September. And we do have the warmest look in the west that we've seen on one of these, and the coolest look in the east here. We're getting into these dark blues here. This is indicative that the National Weather Service is very bullish on these cooler temperatures overall for all of these kind of central and eastern areas, especially the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Great Lakes there in particular. Now, as we take a look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, it's not as intense. It's a little further out. This is for the 6th through the 12th, but we still have the same kind of foundation. The warmer temperatures along the west, and these cooler temperatures overall for some of the central states, but a little bit more east-based in this case for the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic area in particular. Again, now pushing towards the halfway mark of September overall, still on a cooler note if this verifies. So this is a pretty big deal. Let's take a look at another thing. We haven't showed this in a while. The 3 to 4 week temperature outlook here from the National Weather Service. And it's still backing away from the cooler air, obviously, as we get further and further out. The main thing to note is that this warmer air was over the west coast. It's gone ahead and kind of transitioned a little bit further eastward, as you can see, into the Rockies and the plains. And we don't see as cold of a look in the east, but it's not orange, it's not red, unless you're up there in the northeast. It's, for the most part, a neutral, equal chances. And if the west trends overall warm like this is showing, and maybe even we see a westerly trend with that warmth, if it pushes back a little further west, I could see this time frame even being a little cooler. This is for the 13th through the 26th. So this would be basically the rest of the month of September, or at least the majority of the rest of the month of September. And this is, again, valid as of today. August 29th, so this is brand new. Definitely an interesting look. I can't remember the last time we had just like an overall very fall-like September. And for those of you that like fall and like winter, this is really interesting, because if September is below normal, it is cooler, right? It feels more like October. But then let's say we go from September into October, and October's more closer to normal. Well, you're still in those October temperatures. So this might just transition us straight into the fall to where even if it's slightly above normal, it's still cooler. This might just segue us right into it and really eliminate the chance for hot weather. So that's something to pay attention to as well. As we've been showing, we're going to continue doing it. The 5-day, previous 5 days, or I like to call it the trailing 5 days, a little bit of an investor term, temperature anomalies here. And as you can see, we do see warmer temperatures have been around for this western area now. And we see considerably cooler temperatures here for a lot of the plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and even up there in parts of Canada, even a little bit of the Mid-Atlantic here, where we've been 10 to 15 degrees below normal in these green areas, almost exactly what we were calling for. This is certainly a very far departure from what's typical, and a very, very considerable cool down for not September, but August here. I mean, this is really intense for the late summer time frame. Now, as we move into that model guidance, finally, we're talking about the storminess, and there is reason to believe that we could be moving into a stormier pattern overall. We have overall dealt with some drier conditions here as of late for a lot of areas in especially the Northeast and parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley. But this is definitely reason to believe that we could be moving into something a little bit more active. So I want to move us past this weekend. It's pretty quiet outside of the plains there, as you can see. Even by Tuesday the 2nd, it's relatively quiet. We do start to see new areas dealing with some thunderstorm chances, like the deep south into parts of the Ohio Valley. And even here in the northern plains and upper Midwest, there are some showers or perhaps thunderstorms taking place. Now, as we move this towards Wednesday, we can tell that this is all a part of that second trough that's moving in. We have warm air rushing up the west coast here and higher pressure. That's why we're pretty dry. And then we can see this jet stream just diving southward here. As we just kind of draw along these different lines, we can overall see the pattern that's taking place. The heart of this trough is in this area here as of now. So the south central areas of Canada and the north central areas of the United States. But this is coming on the tail end of a low that's between the Hudson Bay and the Great Lakes, and also a cold front that's dragging along. So this is going to get just pulled eastward. It's going to sweep through, and this cooler pattern will overall overtake pretty much everywhere. With it will come chances of heavier showers and thunderstorms along that cold front. And also, way ahead of things, we do get a little bit of a warm, humid push up the southeast, and that could definitely bring more thunderstorm chances. We're even going to be watching for the chance of a developing, let's say, nor'easter or even a tropical system. Time will tell what that ends up being. By Thursday, we do see that around for the Outer Banks here, right there off of North Carolina and Virginia. Again, it's something between a nor'easter and a tropical system. So as we get closer, it'll probably be more clear what this really will be. But we do have a lot of potential, a lot of moisture out here. Definitely things can form along it easily. That low, rather strong, again, between the Hudson Bay and Great Lakes as it's sweeping through. And we can still see this cold front pulling everything down. Very intense jet stream look, but it's actually going to get more intense. Friday, the 5th here looks very classic. Ridge out west here, troughing straight into a lot of the central and eastern states. And then that jet stream moving straight up the east. If this was the wintertime, we would be primed for a storm system to develop here in the deep south and just ride straight up that jet stream, either in that area or it could move offshore. It's funny, I feel like in the fall and spring we always see setups like this that would be like premium for big time eastern snowstorms, and then they seem a lot harder to come by the time we're actually in the winter. Again, this is more based on jet stream, obviously not on temperatures. I just want to clarify that we are not talking about freezing temperatures in these areas. But if this was the winter time, you would be seeing much lower temperatures, obviously. And with this jet stream formation, it would just be a premium look for snow systems like we were mentioning. Let's keep going towards the pattern after that. We do flatten out with the jet stream. We do start to see some storminess return again to the plains and Midwest areas here. This is by Tuesday the 9th. And then we actually get another nor'easter-like system or maybe tropical system here around September 11th that wants to develop off the southeast and kind of crawl up the east coast here. We kind of watch that trying to play out here. Definitely worth noting. And we even actually get a tropical system here near the Bahamas at the very end of the model run. Of course, the worst time for something to move in to the model run would be the end of it for confidence. Hours 360. Any hour before this would be more useful information to know. But at this far out, maybe this model's indicating that it thinks things will get more favorable in the tropics. But at the end of the day, 360 hours out, we definitely want to take that with a grain of salt. Now, as we move into the total precipitation here, we can see that there is a lot of precipitation in the Great Lakes, Midwest, Plains, even into the southern plains here. We see a lot of the deep south and southeast as well, even up into the Carolinas and some of the southern mid-Atlantic, dealing with higher amounts here, mostly due to the fact that we get 1 to maybe even 2 minor to moderate nor'easters or even little tropical systems here. That definitely leads to a lot of precipitation. So we see the southeast picking back up. Again, these areas aren't fully above average precipitation on this entire model run, but it's definitely alleviated and gotten a lot closer to normal. So I would call that a big improvement. And the plains and parts of the Midwest looking a little bit more active as well. Now, as we take a look at those temperature anomalies, you can tell we're in a trough right now in the east with a ridge in the west. As we keep moving on, we see that it's going to stay cooler. This is the 31st here on Sunday. Here's Monday on the 1st. There's Tuesday on the 2nd. And Wednesday on the 3rd, we see this next one moving down, and this one looks even more intense than the one before it. 3rd of September, that's Wednesday. Again, the greens are 10 to 15 degrees below normal. That's already considerably below normal temperatures. Probably you could call it a month out. That would be average. So looking towards early October temperatures here in the greens. But these purplish blues within the greens are 15 to 25 degrees below normal. And these areas, that's very, very considerable. And that would be more likely to be what you'd expect in mid to late October, maybe even early November, depending on where you're at. So this is way, way ahead of schedule, this cooler air moving in. And we can see the whole time warmer temperatures just sticking along that western area. This is really classic stuff. That cool down moves in. Here's Saturday on the 6th. Here's Sunday on the 7th. Then things start to get a little bit messy. There is cooler air around. There is warmer air around all the way till the 13th. This is the European model. Here's the GFS model. Again, first cool down moves through. Second one here. This is Friday. We kind of get like a second one, third one actually here on this GFS model. Here's Sunday the 7th, Monday the 8th. Again, both of these models actually warm up a lot sooner than the National Weather Service is indicating. I am curious to see how that plays out. But confidence as we approach the 10th, it's still being cooler, has certainly gone up for the most part. And we've already been cooler for a few days. So this is looking like it could be a 2-week cooler pattern. I mean, that is really, really a long time. In the winter, this would be a long time to see considerably below normal temperatures just sustained. But in late August into early September, really, really impressive stuff. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.